From South Carolina, Mr. Timmons is now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The CFPB has kicked off a massive rulemaking to revise Regulation V, which implements the Fair Credit Reporting Act. The FCRA and Regulation V set strict guidelines for the credit reporting system, and these guidelines enable our credit economy to function. Thus, changes to this foundation should not be made lightly, nor should they be rushed. Accordingly, I have concerns with the FCRA SBREFA proposal that seeks to designate specific data breaches as FCRA violations. Numerous federal and state laws already mandate data security measures and breach notifications to consumers. Nevertheless, the CFPB seems inclined to introduce a strict liability standard concerning data breaches or unauthorized access to consumer data by third parties. But before I move on, the CFPB had its own data breach impacting 250,000 Americans. Would a strict liability standard be appropriate for the CFPB's own data breach?
Well, just to be clear, we have not proposed a rule. We have been looking at multiple options on data brokers as well as how there may be access to data. But of course, the situation at the CFPB with an insider threat was very, very serious. We did the consumer notifications, and even where we erred on the side of making sure it was clear, we talked to our supervised entities. So in some ways, there was automatic triggers that
How will they be made whole? How will the victims be made whole? If it was a private business or a bank, they would have to pay restitution. The CFPB has hundreds of millions of dollars. Is there any restitution that's going to be offered to these victims?
So fortunately, we have no indicia, and it's really based on the type of data that it could be used for any type of identity theft. It didn't include—
Like filing unemployment claims fraudulently?
It didn't include the type of information that could lead to that. But of course, I take your point. It was very serious, and we are taking steps to address it. And with respect to that outline, we're really trying to make sure we're guarding privacy. And I agree with you that actually the credit reporting system is foundational, and we want to be judicious.
Let me ask this. Do you know of any other example of data security and breach notification requirements that are enforced with a strict liability standard?
I do believe that some state laws do have that, but I would need to— I can look it up and answer a question for the record.
Okay, that'd be great. I guess I'm just concerned what impact this standard would have on economic activity. Almost every corner of the financial services industry will tell you that their cybersecurity teams spend more time and money on compliance than on actually keeping their data safe. I think the last thing we need is yet another redundant regulation taking resources away from these entities from providing actual cybersecurity.
And we don't want to do anything redundant, that's for sure.
Well, thank you for that. Director Chopra, it's been reported that the CFPB is readying a proposal focused on bank overdraft fees, and apparently doing so just conveniently right after your appearance on Capitol Hill this week. Is this report accurate, and what are you proposing in that rule?
So we did put on our regulatory agenda many months ago that we'd be looking at overdraft and NSF. We haven't made any decisions on it, but one of the places that we got input on is people wanted some clarity on what the rules would be. There has been guidance documents. There's a number of places. So we're trying to sift through all that and ideally propose something that makes sure that there is not overdraft abuses.
I guess overdraft is a service provided by financial institutions for consumers to manage their finances. I'm curious, given your previous statements today about attempting to foster competition in the banking sector, why do you think it's a good idea for government to set the price for a clearly disclosed service offered to customers in the private sector?
So it's not about setting a price. I think there have been certain places where prices are a safe harbor to avoid some of the cost of compliance. But what we are looking for is for there to be a competitive market. When people are borrowing, we want them to have lots of choices and to be able to get it in a way that is the function of the market.
I guess that's just the free market. If they want to go to a different service provider to get a better rate, they should. I'm just worried that such a rule will merely result in denying overdraft protection for millions of Americans. These are the Americans who need it most. And if we start impacting the free market, I fear that they're not going to be able to have access to overdraft protection. So the people that need it most, their transactions will ultimately be declined. I appreciate the intent, but the outcome will be detrimental to those that you're seeking to protect. So as you consider this issue, just appreciate that the banks are not going to offer overdraft protection if they're not able to charge a fee for it. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back. Thank you.
Gentleman yields back.